Okay. Tanya, everything okay? You had some tea? Had some coffee? Had a rest?
No, because my sister uh, visited me before our session, and we drank coffee, and I guess that it's enough for me.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're going to be too drunk on caffeine. My dog is having the longest drink of water imaginable. Honestly, it takes about 5 minutes just drinking non-stop. Anyway, let's get started, shall we, on this presentation. So there are, now, obviously there are so many characters in mythology. If there are any in particular, because I can't include everyone, so if there are any in particular that you guys wanted to know, if I know them, then I'll try and tell you how we say it in English. Here, I've just picked the most, I think the main characters from the gods and goddesses, and also some human characters and demigods, etc. So let's have a look. So the main guy, king of the gods, the god of all gods. How do we say his name in English?
Zeus.
Yes, Zeus. Zeus. Now, what was Zeus the god of?
Thunder.
Yeah,
And
or
lightning.
maybe lightning, more accurately. Yeah, the god of thunder and lightning. Uh-huh. Okay, very good. And Anna, who was Zeus's wife?
Hera.
Hera, yeah. Now, there's some ambiguity as to how to pronounce these names. Should you say Hera or should you say Hera? It's a matter of style. It's up to you. Okay. How do we say this guy's name? Poseidon. Poseidon. Second syllable. Poseidon. So Poseidon was the god of the ocean. What is this that he has in his hand? A trident.
Trident, yeah, trident.
Okay, where does that word come from? Tri, like three, yeah? And dent, as in, what's dent? Yes. Tooth, 3 teeth. Dent, like dentist. Who's this?
Athena.
Athena. So, Anna, you were correctly saying earlier that the capital of Greece is, of course, Athens, named, no doubt, in honor of Athena. Just as a quick point of interest, do you know what the Romans called their version of Athena? It starts with M. So the Romans, as you know, the Romans had different names for all their gods. So in Roman mythology, Zeus was called Jupiter, for example. Hermes was Mercury. Athena was called Minerva in Latin, okay? Which is when Pushkin talks about Nisin Minerva Yorosky Hram, that's who he's talking about, okay? Minerva. Okay, let's keep going. Who's this guy?
Ares.
Ares. So Ares, there is the Greek version of what the Romans called Mars. What was Ares the god of?
Of war.
Yeah, god of war. Ares was the god of war. Okay, very nice. Let's keep going. Maria, here's one for you from your favorite cartoon.
Yes. Hades. I don't know.
Hades. Where does Hades live?
So, underground in the hell? The god of hell?
So, hell is maybe more of a New Testament term. So, Alisa, do you remember what's the way that we talk about this place in mythology?
Underworld.
Underworld, yeah. So Hades is the god of the underworld, and yeah, so he sort of looks after people once they're dead. Okay, very good. How do we say this woman's name?
Aphrodite?
Aphrodite.
Oh, Aphrodite.
Aphrodite, and she is who?
The goddess of beauty.
Oh, beauty?
Yeah, of beauty and love.
Mm.
Okay. Who's this guy?
Apollo.
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 God of light. Very nice. Okay, so we're moving on now. These are not necessarily gods, but these are characters from famous Greek myths. Who's this guy, and what did he try to do and fail?
Icarus?
Icarus.
Icarus.
Icarus. So what did Icarus want to do?
Get close to the sun.
Yeah, he wanted to get close to the sun. He wanted to climb to where the gods lived. And how did he try to do it, Alisa?
With the use of handmade wings.
Yeah, but importantly, what material did he make his wings from?
Wax.
Wax. Yeah.
Wax.
He made his wings from wax, and then obviously he got too close to the sun, and his wings melted, and he fell and died, unsurprisingly. So Icarus is very commonly used in spoken English as a metaphor for, or not even the name Icarus, but the reference of the story. So you can say, don't fly too close to the sun, your wings will get burned, that kind of thing. You can very often make a reference to the story in spoken English. Okay, a bit like this story as well. Who can remind me, what was the story of Pandora's box? What was inside?
Butterflies.
Say again, Tanya? Your microphone.
Butterflies. Butterflies.
Something a bit less pleasant than butterflies.
There was once a girl who opened a box full of illnesses and diseases. But her husband before told her not to do so.
Yeah, so there we go. Another example of marital disobedience leading to world chaos. Yes, absolutely. So all of the evils of the world, disease, famine, hatred, anger, all of these bad things were stored inside this, but it was actually a pot, but it's mistranslated into English as box, but there we go. And she was so curious, she had to know what was inside it, and she opened it, and all of these evil spirits escaped, and that's where everything bad in the world comes from, according to this myth. Okay, go on, Maria. It's your favorite cartoon again. How do we pronounce this guy's name?
Hercules.
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 Yeah, Hercules. Now, what's this word that I have in brackets? What might that mean? So this word, Herculean, that is an adjective.
Oh.
So from the name Hercules, we can make this adjective. So that's like, you can say Herculean strength, a Herculean task. So a task like Hercules had to complete, a really difficult task. Okay, a Herculean effort, for example. Okay, really, really nice, sophisticated construction. Okay, who's this guy? Pretty easy to pronounce this guy's name. Atlas. Atlas. What was Atlas's punishment? He was one of the Titans, of course, and he was punished by Zeus for fighting against the Olympians. What was Atlas's punishment?
To keep the road.
Yeah, not to how do we say this? Not to keep, but to
hold
the world on his shoulders. From this legend, we have a famous book by Ayn Rand, which is called in English Atlas. How do we say this? This action with my shoulder.
Shoulder.
Spread his shoulders.
Atlas shrugged.
Oh, shrugged. Yes.
One word in English. Atlas shrugged. Okay, is the name of that book by Ayn Rand in English. Okay, and then obviously in honor of Atlas, we have the name of a book of maps is called an atlas, of course. The ocean is called the Atlantic Ocean in honor of this story. If you don't remember who Midas is, maybe the picture will give you a clue. Does anyone remember what's the story of Midas?
I think he was a Tsar who turned everything in gold by his touch.
Yes, you're quite right. It was a gift given. He had one wish from the god Dionysus, and he wished that everything that he touched would turn into gold. And as you could probably predict, that didn't go very well, and he ended up touching everything, including his wife and his daughters, and they all turned to gold, and that was that. So from this, we get the idiomatic expression, which you can see in brackets here, the Midas touch. Okay, and that has a positive meaning in English. The Midas touch means that it's someone who's very, very lucky, very competent. Everything they touch turns to gold. They're good at everything. Everything, any effort they put in, anything they try is always successful. The Midas touch. Okay. Who's this guy?
Achilles.
Achilles.
Oh, Achilles.
So, what's this expression that I'm going to ask you now in English? What part of the body is that arrow stuck in?
Heel.
Heel. So, what's the expression in English?
Achilles. Achilles. Achilles heels.
Achilles heel. Only one heel.
Achilles.
Achilles heel. How do we say this? Like sciatica between our bones. Do we know? In English, it's called a tendon. Felt like tendon. Tendon. So in English, the name of this part of the body, the tendon that connects your heel to your calf muscle, is called the Achilles tendon. Okay. And just to reassure you, Achilles heel has, of course, the same metaphorical meaning as the similar expression does in Russian. It could mean like a weak spot, some weak part of the brain. Any questions? Trojan horse, I think we all understand. Trojan is an adjective which describes this city where the battle happened, the famous battle with Helen of Troy and Hector and all of those guys. What's the name of this place? Trojan is the adjective. What's the place?
Troya.
Troy. Just Troy.
Troy.
Troy. So Helen of Troy, for example. Okay, and here's the man himself, the archetypal hero, Odysseus. What's happening in this picture? The portrait here of Odysseus. What's happening to him? We recognize this scene?
He is some kind of tortured by the sirens.
Yeah, I think maybe, but I think this might be during Odysseus's journey. Do you remember when we were talking about the sirens? So these were the women on the rock in the ocean who would sing their song and would attract boats to come, and they would crash on the rocks. So Odysseus was the only person who ever heard the siren song and lived, because he made his men put wax plugs in their ears, and he tied himself to the mast and said, no matter how much I beg you, no matter how much I plead, don't untie me, just keep going. Which is, yeah, pretty crazy story. Now, this is an expression which is maybe much more common in Russian than it is in English. Did we understand what expression this is? A Procrustean bed. Did we get it?
Mm,
Sound in Russian, it sounds like Procrustean ложа. Прокрустово ложа. Okay, so it means, as I'm sure you know, a situation that you are forced into. Okay, so Procrustes used to force people to lie in his bed, and if they didn't fit, he would break their bones and chop off their legs. So it's like a dead end. It's something that you're forced into, a straitjacket almost. So the equivalent expression, you know, I think is probably more widespread in Russian than it is in English. But just, you know, for your information, that's how you say it. Okay, who knows this one? The sword of Damocles. Do we know this one? Anna, you're nodding your head. Can you maybe explain about this legend?
I don't remember the legend, but let somebody else explain it.
That's okay. That's okay. So it's pretty hard to explain. I don't remember much about it either, but as far as I remember, it's the classic story where he exchanged, you know, infinite worldly pleasure and wealth and money and all that stuff and power, but he would always have this sword hanging above his head that was tied up with one hair. And if the hair broke, the dagger would fall down and stab him in the head and he would die. But he didn't know when it might happen. So it was always hanging over him. That's, yeah, the sword of Damocles, it's called in English. So this is the guy we were talking about earlier, Prometheus. In brackets, I've got, again, the adjective from Prometheus, which in English sounds like Promethean. So Promethean fire, what does that describe? Does anyone remember what was the legend of Prometheus? What did he try to do?
He brought fire to people.
Yeah, so he took fire from Hephaestus's oven, from his furnace, and he brought it down from Mount Olympus to humans because he loved humans so much. He just wanted to give them fire like the gods had. So Promethean fire obviously refers to that legend, but also it refers metaphorically to any sort of you know, noble quest to try and do something for the betterment of humanity, but maybe getting punished for doing so. As you can see here, Prometheus's punishment was to have his liver eaten every day by a bird, and then every day it would grow back, and every day the bird would come and eat it again. So yeah, fun times for Prometheus. And there we go. On that lovely liver-eating note, we end our presentation. Guys, are there any other gods or stories from Greek mythology that you were hoping I was going to cover, or is that enough? Are there any other ones that you wanted me to help you say in English?
What about Minotaur and his labyrinth?
Yep, you've got it already. The Minotaur, which is one of these sort of strange mythological creatures, which we're going to talk about in a second. And yeah, labyrinth talks about, of course, this legend, but also you can say labyrinth about just like a maze or any situation which is difficult to navigate. Absolutely. Okay. Any others? All right. I think we're good. So I've got some more questions for you guys.